She was 14 years old, and they tied her to a tree in the middle of a storm. 90 minutes in the freezing rain, ropes cutting into her skin, while the son of the HOA president laughed and filmed it like some twisted prank. That night I realized the storm outside wasn't the only one raging. There was another one boiling inside me, and it wasn't going to stop until justice was done. My name's Nate Walker, and I've always prided myself on staying calm when things explode. You learn that trick in the military: keep your voice steady, keep your hands from shaking, walk through the fire without letting it consume you. My wife Heather, she's the sharp one. She sees the whole chessboard, every move 5 steps ahead. And Isabel, my stepdaughter technically, but I never think of her that way. She's tough, brave, the kind of kid with a steel spine and a heart that refuses to quit. We lived in Birchfield Meadows, one of those postcard suburbs with green lawns and a community pool. But every postcard has a backside, and on ours sat an HOA president named Karen Goodson. Karen wasn't just president. She was a queen ruling from a plastic throne built out of vinyl siding and petty regulations. Every letter from her came like a ransom note, gleeful, mean-spirited, always written too fast. Her son Brody wore arrogance like his varsity jacket, strutting around with the smug immunity of someone raised to believe rules don't apply to him. That Tuesday night in October, a storm rolled through Ohio. Purple-black sky winds that howled like wolves, rain cutting sideways. Isabel was supposed to be at a friend's house 2 streets over working on a project. 14 years old at that age, a storm feels like adventure. For a parent, it's a knot in your gut. When 9 o'clock came and went, Heather kept checking her phone. At 9:30, mine buzzed. Isabel's voice cracked through the wind. "Nate, I'm in the field." By the time she said he tied me to the tree, I was already pulling on boots. We crashed out the back door into the chaos, flashlights bouncing off sheets of rain. And then I saw her blue jacket plastered to a cottonwood trunk rope, biting into her arms and chest. Her lips were turning blue. She whispered through chattering teeth, "The bark is eating me." My knife sawed through those ropes one by one, every fiber snapping like a scream. By the time she collapsed into Heather's arms, my fury was white-hot, blinding, but I forced calm back into my voice. We got her inside, made hot chocolate, wrapped her in blankets. I told myself she was safe. I was wrong. Because Isabel hadn't just called me. She'd called her dad, Mark, Heather's ex. 20 years Delta Force, sharp end of the spear. He loved Isabel with a primal, possessive kind of love, the kind that made me uneasy, but I respected it. He called as I was still shaking rain from my jacket. "Where is she?" he demanded. I told him she was safe at home. He said, "Keep her inside. Lock the doors. I'm 10 minutes out." His truck roared like a war drum in the distance. 10 minutes was all it took for everything to spiral. Mark didn't come to comfort. He came for retribution. He marched straight across Karen Goodson's lawn boots, sinking into her perfect sod. Brody swaggered out onto the porch, smirking with Karen right behind him. "Boys will be boys," she sneered. "Maybe your girl should learn consequences." Mark's eyes locked on Brody. "You put your hands on my daughter." It wasn't a question, it was a verdict. His fist cracked Brody's jaw before anyone could move. The boy dropped like a stone, unconscious. Karen screamed. Cops pulled up, but it was too late. Mark was cuffed against his truck while Karen pointed her trembling finger at me and shouted, "You'll pay for this, all of you." And she meant it. That night, Mark sat in a cell charged with felony assault while Karen spun the narrative across the neighborhood. Her official HOA email blasted out that a deranged ex-military lunatic had attacked innocent children. Our neighbors whispered some turned cold, afraid of what Karen might do to them if they stood with us. Then the harassment started: dog waste on the porch, newspapers thrown into puddles. Small things at first, but then came the brick through Isabel's bedroom window, tied with a muddy piece of rope, the same kind they'd used on her. Isabel sat on her bed, wide-eyed, unable to scream. The cops shrugged it off as kids being kids. That was the night I broke. I stood in my daughter's shattered room with a useless report slip in my hand, and I felt powerless. My way, the calm, reasoned way, had failed. Mark's violent way had landed him in jail. We were stuck between extremes, and Karen was dancing in the middle, untouchable. I thought maybe I should just give up. Maybe moving away was the only option. I felt like I was failing everyone, Heather, Isabel, even myself. For the first time, I doubted whether I had the strength to keep going. Then Uncle Dan showed up. He wasn't really my uncle, just a neighbor, a retired Army Signal Corps guy who tinkered with electronics in his garage. He brought cookies and concern. When he heard about our problem, his eyes lit up with that spark of a man who knows how to solve something. "The pool house," he whispered. "The cameras. Karen's pride and joy installed last year." He knew the lock code. That night, dressed in black, I slipped inside with a portable hard drive cloner. My heart pounded louder than the fan in that security box. 3 hours later, we were huddled in my kitchen with Dan and Heather watching footage unfold on my laptop. The grainy video showed Brody and his friends dragging Isabel into the frame, laughing, tying her to the cottonwood tree. Jackets bright even in the storm. They filmed her, then walked away. The timestamp proved everything. But there was more. Hidden folders showed live feeds from all over the neighborhood, secret cameras Karen had installed without anyone's knowledge. And then the email archive, a message from Karen to Brody the day before. It's time that girl learned a lesson. Be smart about it. I felt sick. Karen wasn't just complicit, she had orchestrated it. We had her. But we had a problem too. We'd broken in to get it. If we handed this over, it could be thrown out. Heather, always the strategist, said, "We play it careful. Use what's admissible, keep the rest in our pocket." So that's what we did. First, we filed for a protective order against Brody. Then we set a trap. Isabel's old skateboard hollowed out with an air tag hidden inside. One Saturday, she left it at the park bench. Brody's friend grabbed it on his orders, and we tracked it straight to the HOA clubhouse. The deputy caught them red-handed, text messages and all. Brody was arrested, and for the first time Karen looked powerless. But she still held the HOA, and she doubled down, sending new emails accusing us of framing her son. Enough was enough. Heather dug into the HOA bylaws. With 25 signatures, we could force a public meeting. We went door to door. Some neighbors slammed doors in our faces, too scared, but others signed with angry pen strokes. Families fined for trash cans, for graduation signs, for rose bushes. Karen's petty tyranny had left plenty of scars. By the end of the weekend, we had 38 signatures. More than enough. The night of the meeting, the clubhouse overflowed. Karen opened with her usual condescension, but when I stood up and said, "My family has been the target of harassment encouraged by our HOA president," the room erupted. Uncle Dan hit the projector. Grainy footage filled the screen. Brody tying Isabel to the tree, laughing, leaving her. Gasps, murmurs, outrage. Then came the email, Karen's own words. "That girl needs a lesson." Karen tried to shout us down, banging her gavel, calling it fake. But the crowd had turned, and right on cue, the doors opened. Detective Miller walked in with a warrant. Deputies unplugged the servers, seized financial records. Brody, pale in the front row, was cuffed for unlawful restraint and stalking. Karen herself was cited for illegal surveillance and embezzlement. The chant began, "Recall, recall." Hands shot up, nearly unanimous. Karen's reign ended right there in front of everyone she had bullied for years. I'll never forget the look in her eyes, bewildered hatred, the shock of someone who thought she was untouchable. But no one is untouchable, not when people decide enough is enough. That night, Karen lost her throne of vinyl and threats. Her son was led away in handcuffs. The system she built to control us crumbled in a matter of minutes. And me, I stood there, steady, calm, the way I've always been. Because here's what I learned in the storm: anger burns out fast, but receipts last forever.